Hi, this is Mike Balzer from All Things 3D. Chris will be joining us shortly. He's having a few technical issues, but he'll be coming aboard as well. We're very happy today at the last minute to get Jon Schull. Yeah, I'm assuming the founder of E-Nable, which is an organization that has provided a number of children that are missing a particular limb or something, the ability to have a prosthetic that may not have had one based upon cost and through 3D printing, and it's really taken off, and so we're very happy to have you. I'll go ahead and switch to Jon. So first of all, even though I've mentioned your name already, why don't you give us your full name, where do you reside, and what do you do for a living, and what is your part in E-Nable?
Sure. My name is Jon Schull. I have the job title of Research Scientist in Magic at RIT. We have a Center for Media, Arts, Games, Interaction, and Creativity. And I gave up tenure in January in order to work on these projects. And that's where I am and what I'm doing.
Great. So kind of talk about E-Nable, and while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and bring up your website so that the rest of our audience can see it. So let's see, I have the e-schedule, but that's not when, here we go.
There we go.
This is the E-Nable website itself, and it appears that Chris is back with us. But
hey, sorry about the audio issues. Hi, Jon. Great to meet you. I'm Chris.
Good to meet you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for coming on our show.
So I've already asked him to introduce himself, and he's gone ahead and done that, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about enabling his website, and I'm going to kind of scroll through that, and then while he's doing that, if you can come up with some other questions, that would be great, Chris.
Yeah, so, sure.
Go ahead, Jon.
Well, sure. So we're not even an organization, but we've become something of a movement. We call ourselves E-Nable, and the website is enablingthefuture.org, and that's the public website. But just in the last 14 months or so, we've created an online global community of 3D printing enthusiasts and human being enthusiasts who are using 3D printers to develop and to design and to fabricate and to distribute 3D printed prosthetic hands and give them away for free. And these hands, it turns out, are being favorably compared to commercial prosthetics that can cost $30,000 to $50,000. So it's become a really interesting opportunity for reshaping the industry and the way people think about the roles of amateurs versus professionals in the prosthetics industry.
Okay, and I've noticed in some of the articles that I've read that you've actually gone to, for instance, here I've got something up from Dr. Albert Chi at Johns Hopkins, who just, I guess one of his quote was like, wow, something like that.
That's right. That's the censored version. Yeah, we had a great experience about 5 weeks ago when 4 of us who had been involved in E-Nable for quite some time but had never met in person all converged to visit Dr. Chi's lab at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Dr. Chi is a remarkable guy. He is a trauma surgeon. He does a Hopkins mission to Haiti. He's also a lieutenant commander in the Naval Reserve. Has asked to be deployed to Afghanistan. He's also been featured on 60 Minutes not once but twice for his work on brain-controlled robotic arms. So he's really Superman, although he's got absolutely no ego. And when we walked in, he said, look, I think you guys are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And hearing that from someone like him is really very exciting. Here in that picture, we're showing him actually this very same prototype of a prosthetic arm. And by the end of the day, we had agreed that he is now learning our techniques and fitting children at Hopkins Hospital. And on September 28th, we're going to do a conference in which our ragtag band of amateurs are going to be interacting with prosthetists and 3D printer makers. And we're we're going to try to mainstream what we do into the medical profession.
So have you guys video logged at all? I personally, this project is very personal for me. I've been looking for a kid to do this for quite some time. I finally found one a few weeks ago, and was lucky enough. I've actually printed several iterations of the hand.
Cool.
The first time, because I started off when it was basically the Robo hand, you know.
Yep.
And that was and then now it's evolved into this, which is the Talon, right? This is the latest one.
One of several models. That's right.
One of several models. So I just recently printed the Talon. So and we're at the stage now, and the person I printed it for, his father is putting it all together. He's a kid, and so we're just looking for maybe like a video log. There's really good documented instructions. I feel like those are getting a lot better over time. But is there any place that we can find like a video log? Are you guys working on a video log of people that are putting these on YouTube or?
We do have a YouTube channel, although we're not using it that way. If you're talking about instructional videos for how to actually assemble them, if you go to the top of the Enabling the Future webpage and click on Resources, you'll find a thing called Assembly Tips and Tricks, and that includes some videos on how to do assembly.
Oh, awesome! Perfect. Yeah, because we are putting it together as we speak. A customer just happens to be, because I do 3D printing. I run a service bureau doing FDM 3D printing for prototyping in our local area here on the Central Coast of California, and one of my customers just happened to have one of his sons his son is missing his left hand. So
it happens. It happens more than you would think.
Yeah. So it's been a really awesome project. I've been looking for a kid for some time, and you know, I'm going to look for more in the future. But I want to get one kind of down and know how to do it. And I'd love to be able to even hold an inventory here where I could even sell it for at material cost, or you know, something like that, where because I mean, I can print them professional pro grade, you know, and have them ready on the shelf so somebody could walk in, they could find out about me. We're located like halfway in between San Francisco and LA, so we're actually in a pretty prime spot to even distribute these things. So we're just trying to figure out how to get more of these out there, because we just think it's such a great project.
You should join our Google Plus community. You can find your way to it through the web page that we've already looked at. And you should put yourself on our map. This whole project began with me just creating a Google map and inviting people with printers and people who needed hands to put themselves on the map. And it's grown from there. And this scenario you've described of certain locations that become sort of go-to places is, I think, the next step for us, is to try to just ensure that anyone who needs one can get one about as easily as they could go, say, to a Home Depot.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. And, you know, one of the things that I noticed, we've talked with Eric from Ultimaker on numerous occasions. So when I saw Ultimaker in the news and how they donated, what was it, $20,000 worth of 3D printers, I thought, wow, that's the direction to go. So other than Ultimaker, have you had any other 3D printing companies step up and donate to you, or are they the first?
Well, they're not the first. Solidoodle donated a printer early on and is continuing to support and sponsor the conference. Ultimaker in quite a large way, and Re3D, the people who make the Gigabot printer, have donated one as well, which will be particularly useful as we work on larger things like whole arms and whole legs. So we're getting increasing support, and we're using this conference as sort of a first rallying opportunity to try to bring these players together. We are still welcoming exhibitors and sponsors for the September 28th conference, and it's, I think, going to be sort of an industry-defining event that way, because we've basically identified a new market for the printer makers, and a new solution for the prosthetists.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to get into some prosthetic companies and let them know I'm here offering this as a service, but I think a lot of them look at it as maybe a competing product, whereas I need to break that mindset. I need to come up with some sort of marketing strategy that breaks that mindset down, like, hey, I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to help you, you know. I'm here because you know they do run their living, and there is some value in the service of being able to, you know, fit the prosthetics properly.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, you know, those people, that is their living, and they need to, if they need to charge for it, then that's something that they need to do. And I'd love to give the parts out as close to free as possible, but I also have to make a living, you know, and run a, you know, I mean, but like I'm trying to, Elliot Kotek just gave that talk. I don't know if you've had a chance to check his. He gave an incredibly inspiring talk at the SciGraph this year. SciGraph was just last week, and he was incorporating he's from Not Impossible Labs. And so they did a project where they brought these hands over to Africa, or they actually brought MakerBots over to Africa.
That's right.
And his talk was just really inspiring, and he was talking about how Tom's Shoes, for instance, doesn't claim to be a non-profit, right? They don't claim to be Tom's Shoes is a profit-making. They're a regular, you know, corporation, but the fact that they have humanity and basically a pledge behind them is what people care about nowadays. They don't care if a company makes a profit, because a lot of people are starting to understand that profit is actually a good thing, because it's bringing two pieces of resource capital together, and human capital, and that profit is what allows that company to survive and live on and enable the future, if you will, you know, pun intended, you know. So I'm not saying that I could probably sustainably offer these for free forever, but I could definitely offer them close to cost. And
well,
yeah.
You know, that's exactly what we're exploring with our organization. The ultimate business landscape or non-business landscape is really unclear, and I think it's going to be very diverse. If you want to persuade the local prosthetics companies, I urge you to tell them that our conference is being sponsored by one of the world's largest prosthetics makers, Hanger Incorporated, as well as another large one based in Baltimore called Dankmeyer, and they've both backed us in a very big way. And in discussing this sponsorship with them, I sort of asked them, you know, how they felt about the notion that we were producing products that could be given away for free while they're selling products that can be sold for $40,000. And they had exactly the right answer. They said, first of all, we know that this is becoming possible, and we think it's our obligation to explore it. Secondly, and I'm sure they're right, the need for prosthetists and prosthetics and high-end devices and trained medical professionals to work on fitting and safety issues is not going to go away.
Sure.
We're opening up a whole new market. I mean, the number of people who can afford, or whose insurance can afford, a $40,000 prosthetic is a drop in the bucket compared to the number of people who would benefit from a much less expensive device.
Sure.
And so there's no question that it's a wave of disruptive innovation, but the textbooks tell you that if you want to ride that wave, you have to sort of get out in front of it, and that's what I think the successful prosthetists and prosthetics companies are going to do. And I don't think it's going to mean a retraction of their business. It will mean a reshaping of their business and an increase in the number of people they can help.
Yeah, and you got to imagine that a lot of these prosthetic companies, I mean, if you were getting into prosthetics, said to yourself, I'm going to start a prosthetic company, you have to imagine that that person is getting into that business for a lot of the right reasons. You know, those people are there to help and any way they can, and the reason that they have to charge $40,000 or $50,000 for prosthetics nowadays is because of the traditional manufacturing processes that are involved. It costs a lot of money to make prosthetics, but with the 3D printing technology or additive manufacturing, is bringing that cost down. So yeah, I mean, naturally they're going to be exploring these options. It's a win-win for everybody. I could see a lot of these prosthetic companies really just grabbing this bull by the horn and expanding it from hands to legs to feet to fingers to whatever, So I think it's a really cool time to obviously that we live in, but also a really cool project. I'm really happy to be exploring it with you guys, and happy that you guys are putting these models up there. So how are you actually involved in the modeling of these of the hand?
I haven't been for the first year. I was organizing the community.
Oh, okay.
But about 5 or 6 months ago, we started exploring the notion that maker fairs and those kinds, excuse me, and those kinds of events could be outlets for public outreach as well as potentially for service. We had one of those events at RIT called Imagine RIT, and I put out the call to people in the area who might be interested in working with us to develop and receive 3D printed prosthetics. As it happened, I got 2 people from Buffalo, which is about an hour away. One of them was 9-year-old Derek, and the other was 40-year-old Nathan, who, by the way, is an occupational therapist. And they both had arms that ended about here. And our classic E-Nable hands are wrist actuated. So suddenly we were in the arm business, and we started designing what is now known as the RIT arm.
Okay.
And that has been posted to youmagine.com, youmagine.com.
Yeah, we're definitely friends with them.
And we're continuing to develop it. So yes, I've gotten involved in the design these days. But it's a really interesting thing. The community is a very diverse, very interested and engaged and interesting community. And I've been sort of a guy who waves his hands around a lot as a professor and as a wannabe designer and inventor.
Okay.
And in this community, I've had the experience several times now of being able to say, it ought to be possible to do something like this.
Uh-huh.
And within days, people in the community pick up the idea. They say, well, here's a sketch, and here's a prototype, and here's a print, and the process goes forward. It's a very interesting and I think cutting-edge new model of genuine crowdsourced innovation and R&D.
The maker movement is pretty incredible in that regard. A lot of talent.
I have a question to kind of move this in another direction. A lot of the prosthetics that you have or are displayed are very robotic-like. Has anybody thought of or tried to direct it in providing, let's say, a skin or something like that to make it more cosmetically equivalent to, let's say, the other? And the reason I mention that is, and I've had previous discussions with somebody from your group about 3D scanning the person's, let's say, other appendage and using the surface as what would you call that, wrapping to put around this, or change the plastic itself so that it conforms more to the other appendage and looks more lifelike. Are you moving in that direction as well?
We will get there, I'm sure, but it's not a focus right now for several reasons. First of all, right now, these devices hit a sweet spot for children because the expensive prosthetics don't make sense for a kid who's going to outgrow it in 6 months. And the kids love the robotic look. It's got a whole X-Men, Iron Man thing going for it, and they go from being, that weird kid who's embarrassed about his arm to being the coolest kid in the classroom.
Sure.
I would think so.
They really like it this way. Secondly, we're still working on the fabrication and the design issues to make it really easy to print and to assemble and to maintain and to repair. And for that, the aesthetics are secondary concerns. But we are working on, in parallel, some alternative designs, some of which look substantially more lifelike. And there's no doubt that we will get there. But of course, that has been the emphasis of the high-end prosthetics companies for a long time. That's one reason they're so expensive. We've cornered the market on spectacularly inexpensive, functional plastic devices, and we're going to work our way up from there.
Well, the reason I mention it is with lower cost 3D scanners, we have the structure sensor, which I've created a lens system for to give it more resolution. Plus, you have the Fuel 3D system for around $1,500. Now, they're going to be able to provide the 3D scans that would make it possible to create textured plastics that you did not have before at a lower cost. So. Again, I do a lot of 3D scanning, so that'll probably be my contribution, is somehow involving myself into this and integrating that capability. Obviously, you're going to have to physically be there for the scans, but that can be an option for people.
Sure. You know, I should also say that the answer is going to be, I think, a little bit different for the arms versus the hands. In the case of the hand, which is going over an existing wrist, it tends to be a little larger than the biological hand because it's an exoskeleton. For the hand attached to, say, the RIT arm, there is an opportunity to experiment with a variety of hand models without having that pesky real hand to deal with. So we are going there.
Good.
You know, I should also say that at this conference on September 28th, and Mike, if you could put up that poster on the conference at some point, I would really appreciate it.
I will.
Where is this located?
It's in Baltimore at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, and we're bringing together prosthetists, print people, volunteers, and recipients. And actually, one of the events we're going to be doing is fitting hands to a number of people. A number of children and a few adult veterans, I think. I've just given you a link to a simple poster that tells the story.
Okay, I'll pick it up right now.
So that was a digression from answering your question, which is we're going to be unveiling a new model hand which pulls together some of the very best and best tested innovations from a year of crowdsourced innovation. And this new hand, which we are internally right now at least calling the E-Nable hand 2.0, is sort of meant to be a standard for future innovation. We're sort of specifying the finger lengths and the joint widths, and we're simplifying the assembly. And we're doing it in such a way not to set in stone the design, but to create sort of a standard model for future innovations, some of which will be much more hand-like, some of which will be much less hand-like. We're sort of trying to arrange for mix and match components so that kids who want, for example, 2 thumbs, the way a youngster named Cool Hand Luke has a really good hand for gripping things, or they want extra long arms like Derek, will be able to have their special hand the way they want it in a way that's compatible with other components of other hands.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really awesome. So you're are you going to have some sort of sprint workshop where you guys are going to have people with SolidWorks on their workstations there, and you're going to be kind of like working on this actually at the event?
In Baltimore, yes, that's right.
Wow.
We'll be demonstrating the techniques, and we'll be fitting pre-printed hands, and we will have workshops. One workshop for prosthetists to say, here's what we do, and here's how you can do it, and one workshop for parents saying, here's how you can assemble your own, and here's how you can repair your own, and for that matter, here's how you use our new cool hand-o-matic software that you're going to be finding at the public library and other places where you have computers connected to printers, in order to enter a few key measurements and generate the prints yourself.
Incredible, incredible. So one other dot I'd love to connect maybe for you, because I don't know if you know about the Yale Open Hand. Have you heard about the Yale Open Hand?
I have, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Well, I've made one of these. Here, I'll share my screen.
Please.
And so the way that this hand is printed is these fingers here, for the viewers that are joining us on YouTube, is you print the fingerlings on their side and you actually pour a two-part silicone or a urethane resin into the mold, and then you cut away the plastic. So you actually print the mold and the finger as one piece, and then you cut away basically the mold parts, and then you're left with flexures or fingertips. And so one of the things I've been obviously thinking about is how to incorporate that into the fingertips of the Talon or the Robo hand, because then this would actually give real flexible dexterity to the hand, essentially.
That's right. I think it's a very, very fun and interesting technique. And I spoke to one of the graduate students from that lab at a conference in San Jose 4 or 5 months ago. But in that same vein, there's a wonderful enabler named Steve Wood who makes the Flexi hand and is a brilliant designer. And he's working with Filaflex, which is somewhat similar to Ninja Flex.
Sure.
And he has a hand with a radically simple one-piece print design with flexible joints, which is probably going to be let's say, one of the available E-Nable Hand 3.0s. They're being made now, and we're trying to get some field experience to see how that flexible material holds up with use.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, Jon and Chris, as mentioned before, we've got another interview lined up at 11, so we're going to have to wrap up, and I do want Jon to give us the last word, and again, promote on September 28th, I believe on Sunday, the prosthetic. I can't even say the word. I'll leave it to you, Jon. So I'll go ahead and bring it back up, and if you want to go ahead and talk about it a little bit more, and then we'll wrap things up.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I like to say that 6 months ago I couldn't pronounce prosthetist. Now I are one, but I'm not really. The professionals are going to be coming to Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the leading medical institutions in the world, meeting up with trauma surgeons, recipients, including children and families who are going to be getting their hands, and enablers from around the world to talk about what we do, to learn how we do what we do, and to begin adopting our practices in order to make inexpensive devices available where that's a desirable option. So it should really be a landmark event in several ways. It's creating an industry, it's bringing several groups together. It's going to, I think, give hands to smiling children, and it's going to provide a first opportunity for all of us to get to know each other, as well as to explore business issues and policy issues which are coming up. If people go to enablingthefuture.org, they'll find videos, heartwarming stories, and of course links to the conference. And if you think you might like to come, please register. And if you think you know prosthetists or recipients who might like to come, please send them links and heartfelt messages urging them to join us.
We will definitely do that. Thanks so much, Jon, for being on our show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Keep in touch.
All right.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.